bold, and extremely fun. It's Sunrise with Craig Vronick right here on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to kcmxam.com. Join in the conversation by calling 541-772-8255. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunrise Show right here on KCMX News Talk 880. Glad you're with us this morning. In our debate series, we're continuing week 2 of 4 weeks through the debate series, giving the issues, bringing the issues to the people, dissecting, cutting them up, looking at them, giving all the issues, getting a chance to ask questions. Well, firmly entrenched in the sheriff's race, and we have Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters in the studio this morning. Sheriff, thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning.
Wow, 12 years as sheriff. Been a long haul.
It has been a long haul.
It has been a long haul. There's been a lot of great things that have gone on, but you know, people are questioning that. And we had Lieutenant Bob Sergi in yesterday. He's running for sheriff as well, and Deputy Chief Corey Falls will be in tomorrow. And you know, a lot of questions raised. And I know you've been to the forums. I've been watching the candidates as the forums, as the candidates come out. But 12 years, is that too? I mean, the paper, and this is tough language from Sunday to yesterday related to the opinion in the newspaper. But I want to take people back to what the sheriff's office was like when you found it back in 2002.
You know, back in the old days, there was... 8, 10, 12 cars they had.
Has the population changed much?
Oh, yeah. We've had an increase in, I don't know what the original population was, but, you know, the sheriff's office was down in the basement below the jail. Inmates had a history of stuffing rags and sheets and different things down the pipes and...
Of the toilet,
and draining feces and urine and stuff down into our office complex and stuff down there.
So they thought that was funny.
Yeah,
they knew what was going on.
Sure,
they could hear everybody
funny.
Screaming down below. And how often did that happen?
Well, it happened 3 times right when I first got elected. And we had tarps to cover our equipment, our computers with, and then you'd have to replace ceiling tiles and carpet and different things like that. There was a fleet of patrol cars, but the guys, when they came in, there's people that would get there 45 minutes early to try and grab a set of keys to the best running car.
First come, first serve on the best car?
Yeah, exactly. They had to haul all their gear up and down from the locker room that was on the far corner of the building all the way through this maze of stuff and then up the stairs and into their patrol car. I mean, I think they had patrol rifles, as I recall, but they didn't have tasers. There's a lot of equipment that they didn't have.
Really?
Different things. The heartbeat of the county, the dispatch center, was on top of the courthouse at 10 South Oakdale, which was not seismically fit to house a dispatch center. And there was just a lot of different things going on now. And so, through the years, we've come a long ways.
Now, what was the budget like? I mean, how did that transpire? Because, you've talked about doing all of this under budget, on time, on budget, and what was the problem with budgets back then? Did the county have the money? I mean, I would think they did, right? If the sheriff wanted or needed any equipment, he would ask.
Yeah, they had the financing. I mean, I started with Mr. Kennedy's budget. Anytime you're elected, you get to live on 6 months of the last guy's budget. So
gotcha.
Started with that, but and we got programs going. The patrols that were you know, the way I remember it anyway, that very rarely did you see a patrol out. A sergeant and two was kind of a minimum, and people weren't. All the folks weren't necessarily in uniform.
And you also painted the vehicles. What color were they before? Were they?
They were white, and then they had.
Yeah, that's right.
They'd put some kind of decals and stuff on them, but you know, I did that because you know, I wanted our own signature. I wanted people to be able to look from a mile away and know that there was a sheriff's car out in their community and patrol them and keep them safe.
You said about 12 vehicles before?
Yeah, they probably had a dozen or something.
How many vehicles do we have now?
Well, now everyone has a take-home car, and the reason that we do that is that the maintenance, we did the capital outlay, and then by everyone having a car, it does lots of things for you. It drops the cost of the maintenance. It makes that deputy accountable to that car, so they can't point fingers at each other about a dent
or
or
torn seat.
Yeah, the transmission's laying on the ground or something like that, you know. And so, you know, it's a cheaper way to do business, but the big thing it does also is it spreads our assets out all across the county. And so if we had a catastrophe, or if we have to go into like a flood, we make a phone call, and pretty quick we've got, you know, 20 guys on the street. We go to a 12-hour shift, and we divide our resources. And so it works really good for having your assets
exactly.
spread across the county.
That leads into one of the questions I was going to ask. I was going to wait, but related to response time.
Right.
You mentioned a figure at one of the forums that was pretty interesting. Average response time on a priority 1 call. What is that?
Well, the last time I ran the numbers, we averaged 14 minutes on a priority 1 call, and that's an average. I mean, you know, sometimes may go longer. I know on the Bourne Huddleston homicide, when that call came in, we were on scene in 11 minutes.
Yeah, but now for listeners though, in the county, to me, thinking about 2,800 square miles and 200,000 residents, 14-minute response time average on a priority 1 call, that sounds pretty good. But and in the city, I'm seeing police and fire in about 4 minutes, but you have to compare apples to apples. So some of the other counties, any idea what response time is? I mean, how do you
We don't even have a response time. I mean, they can't, in Josephine County, they can't even measure the response time because they've been so severely cut back, you know. And,
is there any county in the state that has any type of measurement at all?
Oh, yeah. You get up north into Washington County and Clackamas and stuff, and they do a great job and everything, but some of the counties down here are just facing such tough budget cuts and different things because their tax rate is down at 56 or 57 cents per thousand, and you know, they can't maintain it. I mean, even Jackson County, I consider us for doing very well, but the bottom line is, you know, we could even double the number of deputies out and about and cut response times down even more and you know, do a better job. If we had more people, we could be in more places, you know, in the schools and all kinds of different things. But for the staff we have and the funding we have, you know, we're doing pretty good. We made cutbacks. We saw that O&C money going to dry up, and the commissioners and the county administrator, who do an A+ job in this county, made the necessary changes. The budget committee, we all made those changes, you know, back a few years ago, and then started taking that money and putting it into a rainy day fund. And so, you know, when this county had over $100 million sitting in rainy day, it helps you take some of that money and subordinate the budgets in the low spots during the lean years.
Right. Well, related, and we've got a break coming up, but we've got Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters in the studio with us. I want to talk about personnel. You mentioned about adding more deputies and the budget, but there was this whole issue about this layoff notice, these 66 layoff notice, and then also, too, you're not getting the nod in the vote related to the Deputy Employees Association. So I want to talk about that.
Oh, sure. Glad to.
Yeah, that's great. Well, good deal. More coming up, and we're just getting warmed up on the Sunrise Show. Stay with us. Back after this.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. little bold, and extremely fun. Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Welcome back, everybody. 17 minutes after the hour. Glad you're with us this morning. Just getting moving. We've got Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters in the studio with us, and his website is wintersforsheriff.com. And you know, Sheriff, we're looking at the voters pamphlet, and then, of course, this large piece that came out on Sunday related to all three of the candidates. And, you know, tough language in here from your challengers related to resources. But one of the things that doesn't make a lot of sense is this vote related to the Deputies Association and Bob, you know, Lieutenant Bob Sergi talking about him getting 52% and you know, Deputy Chief Corey Falls from Ashland Police Department getting 29%, and then you get 4%. Is that a hotline ringing right there?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, the issues with that are that, and that everybody needs to keep in mind is that I think in the deputies' perception, at least what the union president has told me, that they're upset about the fact that they got 66 layoff notices last year. And
this is so we really do have, I mean, the union, but you're not in charge of that, right?
Well,
it's between the county.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what people need to understand is how the system works. And you know, when we're in these debates and different things, and you got 1 minute to answer
right,
you can't do it. It's a 5-minute answer. And the bottom line of the thing is that the contract is between the county and the Jackson County Employees Sheriff's Association. And so those two go back and forth. Now, I'm just the guy sitting out there running the department, but they negotiate back and forth, and there's number amounts that go back and forth between the two. And if they can't settle on it, which in this case they couldn't, it goes to arbitration.
Now,
So,
how long did that take?
Oh, it went on.
Months.
Yeah, it went on for I think even a year or something. You know, but it's between those two entities, those two groups, and so it went back and forth. And when it couldn't be agreed upon, it went to arbitration. And then as the arbitration, you know, the arbitrator had it. I have a June 30th deadline at the end of the year that I have to zero my budget out, and I have to be on target. In the state of Oregon, the sheriff is personally responsible if it goes over budget. Now, the county can indemnify you, but if they choose not to, you, as the sheriff, can be personally held liable. So, in this particular case, I'm not going to write a check for that. I'm not going to get myself into a situation. And so it went back and forth and went through the holidays, and then, you know, one attorney would be sick, and then another attorney would be sick, and you know, all this different stuff was going on, and here sits Mike Winters out on the sideline while this is going on. All the time, it's getting closer and closer to June 30th.
So why the notices then? Why'd you have to
I'm going
give?
to tell you.
Okay.
And so I have a 28-day window that I have to give the employees. I have to give them their notice, and then they're still employed there.
That's union rule.
For 28 days, yes.
Ah, that's why. Okay.
And so anyway, as the time kept getting compressed, the number of layoffs kept going up. So let's just say this, because I don't know the exact ratio, but let's just say every week we would add 2 or 3 more deputies, because June 30th is a hard line. There's no moving that. And so I have to give 28 days notice. So we're sitting there waiting, and nothing is happening and everything. And the number of deputies that were going to be laid off keeps going up. And so, you know, as a precaution, I had to send out notices. I mean, you know, I don't like sending them out. I care about every one of those men and women. And the last thing I want to do, because I work for the taxpayers, I'm the CEO of that company, and the taxpayers are the shareholders. And we have $300,000 invested in a deputy with a car and training and everything just to get him on the road. And then the maintenance, the training, all the different things that goes on. And the last thing I want to do is lay off 66 people and close parts of the jail and not have people on patrol and able to respond to calls. I mean, that's just ludicrous that I'd even think. But some folks think that I was just doing that, but that's just not the case.
Right. So then, of course, this comes in. So the vote, now this vote, I don't know when this vote was held for the Jackson County Sheriff's Association, but they're obviously not happy the way you did that or were forced into doing that. But it was interesting. I was talking to Lieutenant Sergi yesterday, and of the 130 members, 100 showed up, and 15 of those 100 members didn't vote in a voting session. It was interesting to me that in a voting session, they knew this was going to be a vote. They chose not to vote.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, that would be necessarily. They, people are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And I do one thing. I stay focused on why I'm there, and that is to make Jackson County a safer place for people to live so that they can raise their kids, so that we have good law enforcement, so that businesses want to come here and take root because they know that we have a good law enforcement district. And in this county, Craig, we have a great law enforcement presence. Not only the county, but the state police, the cities, we all work together to provide good law enforcement in Jackson County. And our residents, they should be proud of that, because when you look around to our sister counties, wheels are falling off the cart right and left.
Yeah, exactly. So the deputies, I mean, because there's some traction here. I mean, it's I don't know. It's frustrating a little bit because you can't really. I'm trying to dig down to find out, because there's also comments. I mean, strong language in the Tribune about lack of morale and governance by intimidation and all those types of things. And I'm just wondering, if you can't get a feedback from any of the deputies if they're in the union, right? I mean, just like the teachers' strike in the last few months. I couldn't get teachers to speak out because they didn't have the freedom to speak out because they're within the union. Is that the same thing that's happening with the deputies? I mean, do we have the ability to talk to the deputies? Do they have their...
Yeah, they can. I mean, deputies can say whatever they want, whenever they want. I mean, it isn't that kind of a situation, but we are an organization. We're police officers, and our job is to take care of the citizens.
Right.
And I think, too, people find... they find... satisfaction in different ways. For example, when people look down through the voters pamphlet, all those different projects, that's taken a lot of work to push through a public process. This isn't a private process where you can just make the decision to move on. There's a lot of relationships and study. There's all kinds of things that have to be done to move these projects forward. And so I don't have a lot of time always, and I think sometimes get criticized for it, and probably in this new age, maybe a little rightfully so, but I'm not a hand holder. I want to produce results. I only have a certain amount of time that I'm here, and I want to produce results for the taxpayers and for the citizens of this county. And so I'm very focused on producing results. And so, I always try and tell deputies I appreciate them when they do a good job, and but we don't have big galas and different things like that, and awards banquets and stuff. We're out getting the job done, and I'm proud of the job that they do.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, their caseload has gone up. When you start looking at the number of cases through the years and everything, their caseload's gone up, and they're doing a good job with staffing that is...
And I wanted to talk to you about closure rates and the crime rates and things like that. We've got time, but talking about calls for service and complaints and things like that. Do you have figures related to total calls for service, or and then because there's been some other comments about deputy complaints in the years and things like that. But you had, the numbers are going up, right?
Well, for example, and I want to say back when I first came in office, I want to say the call volume was around 22,000 calls a year. And in 2010, it's 46,000, and now in 2013 it was 56,000 calls for service.
Now, has the budget for the sheriff's office gone up at all?
It really doesn't. It just stays about status quo. And a couple of years ago, we had a $2 million cut, and we had to end up laying off 11 people. Now, those 11 people came out of my side of the line. They came out of administration. They were sergeants and folks that didn't want to retire. They enjoyed working. But, I went to them and I said, hey, you're eligible to retire, and it won't hurt you. But if you don't retire, I'm going to have to lay off deputies. And that's kids that have come here and bought a home, maybe moved from somewhere else,
right,
have a family. And we have all that investment. It's the beginning of their career. I don't want to lose those people. And so I asked these folks, the undersheriff and different sergeants, stepped up to the plate, which they did. And we made those adjustments from the administrative side of the line, didn't lay off a deputy.
So
we've never laid off. I think people should know, I've never laid off a deputy since I've been here. There hasn't been one laid off. Their jobs have always been protected.
Wow. And I was thinking, too, with the stronghold, if you would, that you've been able to procure here in Jackson County, this is a very desirable place to work for law enforcement.
Well, sure it is. I mean, we got some folks coming in recently from other agencies, and they're very happy to work here. I mean, it's a good place to work. We got good equipment. They got good training, and a lot more benefits that people in other agencies and other parts of the country don't have.
Yeah. I want to talk about these accomplishments you've got listed in the voters pamphlet and everything else. We've got more coming up this break as we go. Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters is in the studio with us this morning. His website, wintersforsheriff.com, and you can see a complete list of all the different amazing accomplishments, quite frankly, because this is all on budget, right? You didn't increase budget to do any of these things. These are all within, right? And you've tagged on to federal monies as well?
Yeah, we use a lot of federal funding streams and stuff, and for 12 years, we've never come back to the taxpayers and asked for a dime. Everything has been done by staying on budget.
Wow, this is amazing. Well, all right. We'll come right back. Got to take a break. Yeah, this is, I don't know, make your decision. Check out your voters pamphlet for sure, and then we'll be talking about more Jackson County Sheriff's race here in Jackson County when we return on the Sunrise Show.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to KCMXAM.com and go to the Talk to Us tab. Send us your thoughts. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us this morning. 33 minutes after the hour, about 50 degrees, going to be 89 today. Woof, woof. Oh, it's going to climb over the top of that. It was 90 plus yesterday, so get ready for that. Well, in the studio with me, we're continuing with our interview in the debate series here on KCMX. Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters. And Sheriff, tough language on Sunday in the paper, and then yesterday the Mail Tribune and their editorial piece. But I wanted to address this issue of resources and spending money in other counties.
Did the Mail Tribune endorse somebody?
Well,
I don't ever really read that.
Well,
it says false. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Fresh approach.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. But
All right.
Related to money, now I wonder if listeners, if they are wondering that you've overspent resources. I mean, that's the claim both from your opponents and coming along with spending resources and going into other counties. There's a hand-in-hand relationship. I mean, right? The SOCAR, right? That didn't exist until after the Kim search.
Yeah, Corsar.
I'm sorry.
And here's the deal. When your opponents don't have their own platform to stand on, they got to pick down and tear apart somebody else, Instead of talking about their own ideas, their own plans and stuff, all they trying to do is, tear what I've done apart. But I'm proud of what I've done, and I'm not going to change it. So to say that is that we've taken 1.5 to 1.7 billion dollars, billion with a
Billion.
B, of unlawful marijuana cartel
Cash.
marijuana
marijuana. Okay,
out of the forests. That's product that would have been turned into cash, bought methamphetamine, bought the precursors and different things to make all that stuff and bring it back into the United States of America. And I'm proud of the fact that we take this fight to them, and we do it on a regional basis, and we work side by side, and the feds pay for all of that, reimburse that.
And that's what this is.
There's about $95,000 over a 3-year period that wasn't reimbursed, and that money I use to fly in Jackson County and stuff for search and rescue, for the drug war, and for some special patrol functions. But otherwise, we've taken and we've pushed those folks out of Southwest Oregon, Northern California, and that's a good thing. Every dollar that we can take out of their coffers is money that's not going to be used to make drugs and bring back in here. I don't pay, for example, when the helicopter goes over into Siskiyou County, they have a funding stream over there that pays for it. Our personnel, our SWAT folks go down and help them because we have a mutual aid agreement with Siskiyou County, and their folks come back and help us. And that's what these guys don't understand. They don't understand because they don't have the experience. You know, you don't know what you don't know,
right.
And neither one of them have the experience to understand how the system works. And so we have these mutual aid agreements in place, and their personnel come and help us, and we don't get a bill. And we go help them, and they don't get a bill. It's a mutual aid agreement. And so, and we don't just go down there and leave Jackson County, as Deputy Chief Falls tries to say, you know, I'd like to have those resources here. Well, we don't. The resources are here when we leave. I mean, we leave, and we go down and help them, but that doesn't mean that the calls quit getting answered here in Jackson County.
Right.
You know?
So I mean, as a steward of the budget of the sheriff's office in Jackson County, these mutual aid agreements, I mean, this translates into relationships.
Well, sure it does. And we've, you know, when we formed Corsar, and, you know, Deputy Chief Falls ought to be appreciative of the fact that 3 weeks ago or so, when he had 2 missing 15-year-old girls in the city of Ashland, I think he was out of town that time and stuff, but one of his sergeants called and said, hey, we need some assistance. We went right down there, 10 o'clock at night. I think the case came in at 8. They called us at 10. And we went right down there to start helping. And we put search and rescue folks there. We searched throughout the night. We called for the National Guard to come down with their Lakota and their FLIR on it because it takes 4 to 6 hours to get them down here. And then the next morning, we called for additional resources from Siskiyou and Klamath and Josephine counties. Now, all those folks, when you talk about going outside the county and the relationships, all those agencies sent people up here to help look for those 2 15-year-old girls. And then that morning, we launched our...
and they did that because of this mutual aid agreement?
Yes, absolutely. And
would they have done that before you'd become sheriff?
No, it didn't happen before. And so then that morning, we launched
But that didn't cost anybody any money.
Didn't cost anybody. Didn't cost the city of Ashland. Got all those resources, got the National Guard, and got our alert aircraft, who actually found the girls within 20 minutes of launch, and we dropped medics in and stabilized them and stuff. And the city of Ashland didn't get a bill. You know, it's people helping people.
Right.
It's what you were talking about earlier in your 6:30 hour. We got to take care of Americans first, and we got to help each other, and that's what we do. It's a system, and we work together.
So building relationships is key for the sheriff with the different counties. I mean, 36 counties in the state and the region. And I'm just, you know, we talked earlier on the program about where the sheriff's office was when you found it and where it is today. And based off those relationships, where would you say, I mean, you know, as a top law enforcement officer in the county, based off of relationships, have we got a decent base here with relationships from law enforcement around the country and the western region?
You know, we have partnerships in relationships with Emergency Communications of Southern Oregon. We've formed the Corsair program, a group of sheriffs all working together, 9 counties, 2 in Northern California, 7 in southwestern Oregon. The summer program, taking the fight to the cartels, and then about a month ago, we did the last environmental cleanup of those cartel gardens on federal funding, went out and cleaned up all the sites where the pesticide, the trash, the toilet paper, the food wrappers, the propane tanks, all that stuff is out in the woods. We went out, cleaned all of that up, and kept that stuff to help reduce contamination in our waterways. We regionalized the Amber Alert system to make things safer for kids. We have the only child abduction response team state certified in Oregon, here in Jackson County, that were put together, and it's one of 20 in the nation. So we have relationships with MADGE, the high-tech crime unit. I have a sergeant that's assigned to it who just got all of his certifications, recently to be top level, so that we can handle child trafficking cases or child porn cases, all those types of things. And, we opened up 62 jail beds here the other day, and we have relationships with the federal folks who are going to put inmates in there so that I can develop a revenue so that I can start adding back some spots, a detective and some patrols. But it's all about relationships.
Yeah. So, you're talking about all this kind of stuff, and of course, I'm thinking to myself, all the deputies, all the, sergeants, lieutenants throughout the entire sheriff's office, they've got to be pretty proud of this.
Well, one would think, and I would hope that they are. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office has only turned down, let me put it this way, has only turned down one request to law enforcement agency, and that was during Katrina in New Orleans. We did not go. They asked for resources, and we didn't send them back there. But here in the Valley, I've never turned down a request. In fact, and I consistently ask, as late as yesterday, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything that we have that you need? If it's ours, if it's housed at our agency and you need it, it's yours so that we don't have to duplicate or buy additional equipment unnecessarily. If I have it, you're welcome to it. We do that on a regular basis. I say that 10, 15, 20 times a month.
And now, would you say that that's best use of resources? Because you're being said that that's not good use of resources, that we should save it for us in the county rather than working together. I mean, it doesn't sound right, but...
When the big ticket items happen, the big floods, the marijuana stuff, there's no county, city agency that can handle big ticket items, an earthquake. You have to work together. You have to have those relationships. You have to train together. It's good if you know the person's names and stuff of the other teams and who's going to show up and what abilities they have. Because you don't want to be trying to figure that out when an 8.0 earthquake runs through the valley and now you're getting people in that you don't know, you haven't trained together. We're regionalizing and working with all of that because it provides a safer environment and a better return for the tax dollar, and that's what people pay me to do.
Wow. Well put, Sheriff. Okay, I'm speechless. What can I tell you? We talked about service calls, and the number of service calls have gone from 22,000 to 46 to 56,000. Are there complaints? Because there's been comments about lack of training, or that deputies aren't trained enough, or it puts the county at risk, or all of these 56,000 calls for service and closure rates. And I want to talk about that when we come back, related to, but you're getting complaints about your deputies? Or are you getting, are they they're doing a good job? I just don't see.
We had 40 complaints last year.
40?
40. And
like written,
people called in and 40 times out of 56,000 cases and had complaints. It's not bad. We're not perfect.
I'm trying to do the math on that 40 into 56,000, and I'm coming up with a lot of
zeros.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about closure rates.
Sure.
And where we can go from here related to more personnel and what that budget would allow and all those type of things when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters in the studio this morning. We've got more as we go in our debate series here on KCMX. Take a quick little break, and we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. A little bold and extremely fun, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 47 minutes after the hour, 52 degrees. It's going to be a hot one today. Hopefully, it'll calm back down. We've got Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters in the studio this morning, and we're going to be talking about closure rates and figures, facts and figures you can sink your teeth into. But we do have a call, so let's see if we can't get that call in this last segment of the show. Good morning. You're live on the air. Who's this?
Good morning, Sheriff Mike, and good morning, Craig. This is Dwayne.
Yes, sir. Did you have a question for the sheriff?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment as it relates to yesterday's op-ed endorsement of the other candidate.
Oh, right.
The sheriff was accused in that article regarding the lack of the willingness to pass on information regarding some of their functions.
Right.
And specifically mentioned the hiring of the information officer that is currently working for them. And I just want to say that I experienced the same thing in reverse when that same person was working for one of the media TV stations locally and requested an interview with me regarding a very simple matter that was taking place in Ashland. And the head of that organization that criticized the sheriff for his lack of information put a stop to that interview that I was requested to have over what I considered a very simple and actually a community serving project that we were asked to be involved in. I just wanted to pass that on because it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm careful not to name names.
All right. Well, thanks for the call.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, and that brings up, and I want to talk about numbers, but also this issue. I mean, you, Sheriff, it says in this opinion piece, not been accessible, and even the public information officer hasn't really fielded media inquiries. And you had a comment about that.
Yeah, I got a lot of comments about the Mail Tribune and stuff. So,
sharing
and I
information.
appreciate that call. Here's the deal. In the beginning, I tried to do quite a bit of the PIO work and such, but kind of what changed it for me is we had a officer-involved shooting one night, and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight, and I'm responding from my house to the call, and I'm going down the road, and my cell phone rings, and I think that it's a commander from on scene or a deputy on scene that needs some advice, needs something, some clarification. I just answer the call, and it's a reporter from the Mail Tribune. And what happened is that they would start when we're responding to these calls, my phone was just ringing crazy because Channel 5, Channel 10, Channel 12,
right.
Everybody would call, and here I am. I'm trying to handle the incidents and stuff, and my phone's ringing off the hook. And so as the call volumes went up, there's more stories and different things, obviously, when your call volume goes up. And I'm not able to handle all that, plus handle being the sheriff. And so I wanted to do a better job of getting information out because it was not going to happen with me because of my time. And so my heart was in the fact that I wanted to do a better job of keeping the public informed. And I hired Andrea to do that. Now, people need to understand the media calls, that's the worst job in the agency, is handling that media phone, because it rings off the hook at all hours of the night or whatever. People have a life. We only have one PIO, and they also do other things as far as, doing stories within the agency, and it's a busy job. And so she gets back to the media. It may not be the second they want it, because sometimes, like yesterday, one of the local channels waited till 4 o'clock in the afternoon to call in and want a whole bunch of different reports. They came on earlier than that. They came on duty, but they wait until 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock before she's about to walk out the door. And then they're asking for all this in-depth stuff that just doesn't happen. I mean, we don't just have files and files of stuff that we can drop for them.
She's also in the field, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's having to do it all. And so, I mean, people need to be a little understanding. The media tends to be a little demanding.
Right, exactly. Well, as far as you not being accessible, just from the busyness of the calls, I mean, it went from 22,000 to 56,000 calls for service, along with the size. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, running the sheriff's office, that's not Mayberry RFD. So I don't have, I mean, it isn't Andy and Aunt B out there. I mean, this is a busy agency, and if I'm dropping everything I do to answer all the media calls all the time, I try to get back to the ones that I can. We try to get the information to them, but I'm not just walking from the sheriff's office down to get my hair cut and walking over to the diner to have breakfast in the morning. It's substantially busier than that. I am the CEO of this company, and I have to produce results, and I have to stay focused on what I'm doing, because otherwise it's all the phone calls, all the interruptions, and pretty soon you don't get an agenda like we have published in the Voter's Guide. You don't get that done if you're not staying focused on it.
Yeah. All right. Closure rates. We've got about 4 minutes.
Clearance rates.
Clearance rates. That's it.
And they do we compared ourselves to the other agency who uses the same exact system, and we have a 92%, according to my analysts, a 92% clearance rates on all the cases we investigate. So the deputies and the detectives are doing a great job. Could we add a few more? Absolutely. You can always add more. But people need to understand that the finances in the county aren't there to do it.
Right.
They aren't there. And so we have to do the best job we can with the people that we have. And we do. We do. I mean, when I came into office, things changed. I mean, I'm in uniform all the time. And so is everyone else, unless you're a detective. And if necessary, if we have to respond to a call, we will. I mean, it's what we do. We want people to be safe.
So do you have enough people to handle the crime? That was the next thing. It's just, obviously you just said that. We don't have enough people to handle the crimes.
No, we don't have the money to have enough people to handle the crimes. We have to triage and prioritize everything. We do the best we can. And I wish I had another 20 deputies, but I don't.
Right.
And I'm not going to whine and cry about it. And I'm going to do the best I can always with what I have.
Well, there's been complaints, obviously, about having more deputies or less deputies, and then having all of this equipment. Was the money spent on the equipment rather than spent on the deputies for law enforcement?
Yeah, there's different pots of money. And so you have operational money that you can use to support deputies, and then you have one-time money that's used to buy equipment and different things like that. And you can't use the one-time money to hire a deputy for 20 years. It's not the way the system works.
Yeah.
Jackson County, I'm telling you, it's a 10. And it's a 10 because of the commissioners and the county administrator, the budget committee, and all the department directors that have small business backgrounds like myself. And everyone works together as a team. And that's why we're as good as we are. Are we perfect? You can always find criticism. I can criticize myself and say,
right,
I'm not perfect. But Jackson County, compared to other counties, we're light years ahead.
In the state of Oregon as well as,
yeah.
I mean, on the West Coast. So what's next? I mean, obviously we got to get through the primary and the elections and all those kind of things. I mean, I'm looking here at these numbers. You said from 1988 you had 10 records clerks assigned, and today you still have 10 records clerks assigned. Right? Am I reading that right? But
that's right.
From 9,300 incidences entered to 24,000 incidences entered.
Yep.
And from 2,500 citations up to over 13,000 citations entered.
Yep. Yeah, we do a good job. We have increased the taxpayers for their return on their investment. You have the same 10 records clerks doing, anywhere from 150 to a 500% increase in work productivity and workload. So you have the same number with a whole lot more performance. Those people do an excellent job, and we've got a luncheon coming up here shortly for them, because the mistake rate, so to speak, in the state has to be under 4%, and they're under 1%. So they're doing that workload under 1%. How can you,
And the bar is 4%.
Yeah, how can you not be proud of that?
Wow, yeah, that's fantastic.
Those girls are working their tails off, doing a hell of a job.
Wow. Well, Sheriff, we're out of time. I tell you what, it's enlightening, ladies and gentlemen. It's enlightening to hear these numbers and look at this. And I personally have been with the Citizens Academy, and every single division of the Sheriff's Office I've been impressed with. Jackson County Sheriff Mike Winters, and the website, wintersforsheriff.com. Check it out. Tomorrow, Deputy Chief Corey Falls will be in. More on the Sunrise Show in the debate series. All right, we'll be back. We got Elise Higley with the Our Family Farms Coalition coming up next.
Start your day off right. Catch the sunrise on KCMX AM 880. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.